Thank you for joining Leadership Sovereignty. I'm your host, Terry Baylor, along with Ralph Owens. On today's show, we'll discuss topics such as perceptions, the value of principles, love versus fear, the equation, the revelation of self, who you are, and your purpose by design. Enjoy the show.
Because we could spend the rest of our lives trying to change other people's lives, and it may last for a generation, then die off, and then it just keeps coming back. But I'm curious. So, in light of that lesson, what do you derive from that we could use to help us overcome those stereotypes and ideologies that other people may follow?
So here's the deal. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have to overcome anything. I don't think we have to overcome it, right? I think we just have to be.
Interesting.
I think we just have to be. Because here's the deal. To your point, if someone has a framework that would not allow them to operate, right? Because I'm gonna, man, look, I'm always gonna refer back to, I'm always, I'm a principle driven person, right? And so my principles are framed around, basically, I'll just say the 10 Commandments. Let's just keep it simple, right? And so some of those, principles, some of the root of those principles, man, sometimes people just have a tough time operating in. And I would say one of the number one of those principles is love, right? And so if we deal with that, right, and then we start dealing with what the opposite of what that love is, it takes me back to the saying that says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, right, but a spirit of power, right, spirit of love, right, and a sound mind, right? So what I derive from understanding the premise of the culture that we have to operate in is I have to be sound, man, and certain things are going to do that, right? There's a certain level of power that I get to operate in, right? Now, I believe the nuance of that power is really internal. It's to myself. It's understanding what it is and who I am and what I operate in, what God has placed in me, who I am as a person, what are my passions, what are my goals, what are my interests, what is the vision that God has given me to give to humanity. To me, that's power. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're all of that. You mean all of that's in me? Yeah, it's in you, right? So that's one aspect of it, right? Love, right? Again, that whole principle starts in internal, right? I can't love you until I can love me, right? One of my daily affirmations at the end of it, I said, I operate in love towards myself, my family, and everyone I encounter. So that love equation starts in this. Hey, we say this all the time. Lead from the seat you're in, right? That love equation, it starts in the seat that I'm sitting in. So I have to be able to apply it to myself, right? So what? We got power, love, and a sound mind. If you are at the end of that is, okay, now, I'm not going to be fazed by this, right? I'm not going to carry the weight of anxiety because of this person's, more than likely, and we've seen this, because you're insecure, you're going to try to put your self issues on me or try to work out your insecurities by, stepping on me. That's so I think that's really, and ultimately what it boils down to is I understand that here's the end of the equation, that I was wonderfully and beautifully made in the image of God.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. 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 Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important, for those who are listening to understand that this revelation of self and who you are is the beginning of you tapping into your power to be able to deal with difficulties that come your way and not be moved, to remain at peace, to overcome, because there are challenges that we're going to have to overcome in corporate America, right? Challenges in our families and things of that nature. But that understanding of self, I agree 100%, is the first step. Because once you understand who you are and whose you are and the purpose and design by which you were built for, you understand what you can actually get through. And, going through things is nothing new for any of us, right? Bible talks about it plenty, but we know that he's with us no matter what we go through, right? Which is the unique factor to me in comparison to those who we may walk alongside with who don't have. I was talking to a young lady today at work, and she just kind of told me that her mother died, yesterday. She had just saw her 24 hours before that.
Mm,
I could see the hopelessness in her eyes,
mm.
right? And all I could do is give a word of encouragement and just let her know our thoughts and prayers to be with her and things of that nature. But she doesn't believe like I believe, right? And that's where, I kind of step back and I say, God, I thank you, because in walking through something like that, to know that he's with me, that's the thing that makes the difference, right? I don't know that she knows that, right? But yeah, no, I agree. I agree. That knowledge of self and your purpose by design is it gives you the longevity to go through and to overcome.
No, I love what you just said. Purpose by design. Right? And so sometimes, man, we'll look at a certain situation or a certain episode that we're in. And I mean, quite honestly, we want to feel like, hey, where's my bed of roses?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, guys. Life and circumstance and chance, it happens to us all.
Absolutely.
There is no, you know what? Rain falls everywhere,
That's right.
right? The question is, do you have an umbrella?
That's it. That's
That's
it.
the question, right?
That's the
What is the
question.
umbrella? The
Mm-hmm.
umbrella is, have you been preparing for the
Mm-hmm.
rain, right? Were you looking at the signs, right? Were you again, right? Or were you looking at those who are the experts that say, hey, over the next week, this is what we're
Mm-hmm.
expecting. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do they always get it right? No, they don't. But what you have an ability to do is to take that information, right? And of course, right, this is an example, right? Or a parable, if you want to look at it, right? It's an
Mm-hmm.
example of, I'm getting information. Do I just let this information go and pay no attention to it? Or do I say, hey, you know what? Let me dig into that. Let me look
Mm-hmm.
at that. Let me see what the impact of that will be. Well, how do we tie that into this conversation? It's, hey, a podcast like this. It's a book, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know that there's something going on your job that you may be challenged with. Prime example, Ralph knows of a situation that I'm navigating through. He said, hey, Terry, here's a podcast I think that may help you. I could have been like, man, I got it. I
Mm-hmm.
listened to that podcast. I was like, man, that's spot on. That is, and but here's the beauty of it. The anecdotal information they were giving in that, I was surprised to a certain degree. I had really been operating the way they
Mm-hmm.
said I should. And and
Mm-hmm.
and I asked myself, how did I do that
Mm-hmm.
without knowing to do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, because I'm very analytical that way, I'm thinking, man, how did I? And I think on one aspect of it, it was books that we've read, understanding EQ, understanding, how to communicate, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Power of agreement, all
Mhm.
these things,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Somehow it all came together. And I was like, now granted, there were a couple, 2 or 3 nuggets. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's brilliant how they're phrasing that and
Mhm.
how what the motivation should be or what your desired outcome should be from this particular action. So I
Mhm.
thought that was really brilliant.
Mhm.
But sometimes, guys, you you know, in your journey and your discovery, um, because this is all about, one of the things that I've read or I've been listening to from some of the folks and books that I read, ultimately what they say about leadership and the journey, and Ralph, is something that you kind of hit on earlier in this conversation. Ultimately, it lands in discovery of self.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate really goal that really comes out of, I won't say goal, that is the ultimate outcome that
Mhm.
is derived from a true journey of leadership. Thank you for being with us today on Leadership Sovereignty. Stay connected with us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram by searching for Leadership Sovereignty. And just like this podcast, let's all collectively grow as we go. God bless.